Welcome to Founders vs. CISOs podcast. In this podcast, we will talk to well-positioned CISOs and to founders of startup companies in the cyberspace to try and answer some key questions. We'll pick the brains of leading CISOs in the industry and prominent founders in the industry to try and bridge the gap between market needs and sales decks. We'll discuss anything from market positioning to your whiskey of choice. Join us for a light talk. Okay, thank you for joining us, guys. A quick intro about my discussion today. Today I'll be speaking to Hilik Kotler. We actually first met back in the year 2000. You were just fresh out of the Israeli military, serving in a highly technological unit, which is very well known in Israel. You spent a few years working as an information security consultant in a leading firm in Israel at the time. And I think after 2 years doing consulting work, 3 years, yeah, you founded your startup company, which was called Promisec. And as I remember it back then, it had a very unique technology at the time. If I remember correctly, you were one of 2 co-founders originally, and you came up with some amazing technology back in the day. And it actually helped you differentiate the company and the product from many other competitors at the time. As part of that company's growth, you moved to New York City. You spent about 4 years there before returning to the HQ in Israel. And eventually taking the seat of the CEO. I believe it was pretty much around the time where you exited the company, when you actually moved back to the corporate world as the CISO of a company called Amdocs, which is an international company with an annual turnover of about 4 billion in revenue. And after spending 4 years at Amdocs, while completely transforming their information security team and building up an international skill set, envied by a lot of other colleagues, I'm sure, you got an offer from FICO, and you actually relocated to the Bay Area, to the San Francisco Bay Area in California. And I think since then, for the past 3 years or so, you've been acting as the CISO of FICO. I'm sure I've missed out on something. If you wanted to give like a brief introduction about yourself.
So yeah, we know a while back, 20 years, it shows how old we are, although you are older than I. Not a lot to change in the journey, but yeah, 22 years in the cyber realm from the Israeli NSA, the 8200 unit, through consultancy company that I was working for, and then establishing Promisec, which co-led the company with a very unique technology, agent-based technology around endpoint, which today it's much easier to explain. Today you have the OS query. What we did is exactly like OS query, but without the agents. So most probably if we would have doing it 5 years after, things would have been even better than they were. Startup, as you know, you sweep the floor, you cut POs, you raise money, you sell, you support, you create PLDs, you do everything. So it was an amazing journey. As you mentioned, Israel, also the first time I relocated to the US to establish the first US operation. And actually, yes, I moved back to Israel, transitioned after we sold the company to the VC, and joined for the first time, not returned to a corporate. Actually, this was my first time I actually joined a multinational giant. So for the people who are not familiar with Amdocs, Amdocs is traded in NASDAQ, 4 billion in revenues, mainly doing billing services, hosted billing services for the biggest telcos around the world. And it was a great journey, you know, for an entrepreneur to come to a huge corporate, 120 locations, 30,000 employees, security division that was mainly focused on corp IT versus, you know, focusing on what matters, which is the client data. Amazing journey, amazing company to work for. My last year in Amdocs, I actually took over also Cyber BU. So it was a monetization division that was originated from the CISO organization that I led, that became a P&L, which again, it's pretty unique. Usually that's not where CISO is. CISO is backend, you know, mainly the L on the P&L. But we did manage to do a lot of P's and finance ourselves, as well as generate some nice profitability. And afterwards, yeah, joined FICO. In FICO, amazing transformation to the cloud. You know, everybody knows FICO from the franchise, the FICO score. Not a lot of people knows that FICO today is one of the biggest tech-fin organizations serving you know, the biggest financial organization around the globe, and have one of the fewest enterprise grade platform on AWS over Kubernetes platform, you know, with really the greatest and the newest edge technologies exist in the market. So yeah.
Great.
Yes.
And just to add some color about you, the man behind the role, can you tell a bit about your marital status and maybe your favorite drink?
So yeah, so I'm married to Evelyn, and I have two amazing daughters, Sivan and Noga. Noga is 9 years old, and Sivan is almost 11 years old. We came to the US again. For my daughters, actually, it's the first time relocating to the US in 2017. So, you know, being an Israeli, knowing Hebrew, today they are American. They know English much better than Hebrew. And we live in San Jose. And favorite drink, Drambuie. So it's just, you know, it's mainly in Europe. Drambuie, that's where you will know better about Drambuie. But, you know, although it is more European drink in the US, if you go to the bartender, don't try with the waitress. He will go to the top level in his shelves above the bar, and you will find a bottle that nobody drank for in the last 20 years, and you will have Drambuie. So I highly recommend. It's a whiskey blended with
I think rum.
not with rum, with honey.
Really?
And it's yeah,
that.
and it's pretty amazing. So try it out.
Okay, you know, this is the first I've heard of it from you. I mean, I didn't know that was your favorite drink, so I guess you learn something new every day. But yeah, I'll try. Go to Bevmo after this call. So yeah, let's dive right in. I want to be respectful of your time. What's the one thing you wish you'd known when you begin your career?
You know what? It's I think it's the unknowns. Every turn I took, it's a all new world. You know, it's an amazing adventure. As far as I know, you live once, and you know, and you know, I'm trying to get the best out of it. So, you know, being a consultant, then founding a company, then going to the biggest corporate in Israel, you know, huge corporate also in a European, American standpoint, and then going to FICO. You know, that's the unknowns, the fact that this journey really brought to my life so many adventures. And actually, required me to transform, required me to learn so much along the road, and not only from a technology standpoint, but from everywhere. And you know, I'm sure that you have additional questions that we will be able to dive into more specifics, but the unknown, the fact that even if I tried to predict when I was, you know, in the Israeli NSA, what I will do next, I would never think that I will become the CISO of one of the most important institute in the US, you know, FICO.
Yeah.
So there.
Okay. What would you say your biggest failure was, and what did you learn from it? What did you take home from it?
So, you know, I don't give grades to failures. You know, I'm kind of a guy that if you don't do, you never fail. And, you know, I will bring the cliche that everybody are already familiar with, that you learn much more from failures compared to success stories.
Yeah.
So, you know, in every, as I mentioned, you know, 22 years, you know, in the cyber realm, I made tons of mistakes. Um, you know, my hope that most of them were tactical, because eventually, you know, I am where I am, and I feel very comfortable wherever I am at this point, and you know, pretty feel very comfortable with the team that I lead and with the achievements that we are managing to bring to the table in every place you know, I'm working for. Again, doing a lot, trying to fail, you know, in the places that you can allow yourself to fail. Try to limit those failures. More importantly, learn from those failures. You know, try not to fail twice at the same place, and just, you know, continue moving forward, continue develop, and continue grow.
Mhm. Yeah, I tend to agree with that notion. And I also like to consider failures. Whenever I fail, and I fail a lot, obviously, I think, you know, failing fast and failing small is the way to go. I think if you fail big, that's what tends to hold you back. Uh, but yeah, definitely agree with that. So speaking about your failures, though, what would you say your biggest accomplishment was?
You know, in every place, you know, I'm always looking back, you know, with a great joy, you know, even though, you know, maybe I could have done better, you know, because I'm the biggest critique of myself. You know, makes me what I am. So, you know, I cannot name, or I cannot give you a list. I think it's the bottom line, you know, and the bottom line is that I think that today, you know, I'm a better leader than I was before. I think that that my strategic observation and strategic decision making is much more mature than in the past. I feel that, you know, that I can give much more to my employees, you know, because I'm always learning and exploring and learning from everyone, eventually to become better at what I do. And, you know, if I need to name one, but again, it's big, you know, it's being able to transform. If you look at the cyber realm 22 years ago and today, completely different story. And if you don't know how to invent yourself and create, you know, reinvent your profession, your expertise, get up to speed with everything that is going on, understand, you know, the transformation that you are going through, hopefully ahead of the curve, um, you know, you will fail. And I think that's what I managed to do over and over. You know, it's not like I predicted we will be first in the moon. You know, if you know, I come from the US, it's more prediction on where the cyber realm is going, how to bring yourself to speed, how to ensure that your strategy is being cascaded properly to the team that you have established, to establish the right team, to configure the right team, to be able to make better decisions and to align to the organizations that you are working for. So I think that's maybe the biggest success, you know, transformation that as a person, as a professional person, I managed to do so far. And it ain't easy, you know, we are getting older. If you
Yeah.
look today at my daughter, you know, I'm too slow, you know, when I need to help her fix the iPad or her MacBook, you know. So always reminding myself when, you know, I learned everything about computers from my father, and my father was, and still, by the way, you know, thanks God, 73 years old, still part of one of the biggest banks in Israel, managing and developing their mainframe.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
I
you don't have
remember.
a lot of
Yeah.
people that, you know, and think about the bank, how risky it is.
Yeah.
So
That
I remember when I grew up, I was fascinated that I was 13 years old. My father, my dad taught me everything, but I figure out much faster things around DOS and Windows, you know, and the evolution. And now you know, I'm going through the same phase with my daughters.
yeah. But don't forget Telnet as well. And
That came afterwards, yeah,
yeah.
the telnet.
Well, you know,
It's a private joke from our consultancy days, Ben and
yeah.
I.
Yeah, you know, since I know you for a while, I would I assumed the answer to the that question about the biggest accomplishment would be around building teams and leading teams, but that was actually part of the answer that you provided. Yeah, because
Absolutely.
yeah,
But you know what? Let me take it. You know, as I said, I'm the biggest critics of myself. But you know, you are going together with me a long way back, right? You know me since I was, you know, out of the army. You know, a young fellow, 21 years old. You were 23, right? You know that's I think the
yeah.
so what do you think my biggest success, you know, knowing me for such a long time?
I think I think in the professional world, probably the ability to create and lead teams effectively. And I've seen you doing it. You know, I stood on the sideline, right? But I've seen you doing it in Amdocs and at FICO. But I think as you said, I think the transition, you know, because when we met, you were a consultant, just like I was. But the transition process that you went through from, you know, being a consultant, then being a co-founder, and then, you know, moving to the corporate world and succeeding in that world as well, right? I think that would I totally agree with your statement, the transition, but you know, but only after you, yeah, I think, you know, either either or. So if someone would ask me about the professional achievements of you, I would definitely say building teams, leading teams, and actually creating an information security organization within a large company. But on the personal side, I would definitely talk about the transition. You know, growing from that kid from that little town in Israel, and becoming you know, the CISO of one of the, as you said, the well-known companies in the U.S.
From a farm in
Yeah,
Israel, from a
from a
farm.
farm. Yeah, almost. Uh, so, and I know a lot of people would be interested in learning more about your career and the paths that you took. So, what advice would you give someone who wants to pursue a career similar to yours?
You know what I would say? Instinctively, I will say plan, you know, your moves, and try to align your progress with the way you are drawing your future. But as I said earlier, I don't think that I would that I would actually, if I would have done it. that's where I would have thought I will be. Yet still, you really need to be calculated. You need to put some milestones, and and try to align. Um, Eventually, you don't know what the future holds. You will get so many junctions along the road that you will need to make a turn, right or left, or continue straight forward. But always, if you believe in something and if you have a dream to do something, and that's what you believe will make you happier. And I think that's the key, by the way. Also think about what will make you happier rather than what will make you more wealthy or what will make you a bigger leader. Or eventually you have a family, you need to stay healthy. You cannot control everything, but think through every junction you get and how it serves you as a person. Continue being happy, continue serving your family, and just try to stay clear-minded and honest with yourself. So sometimes we tend to believe things that are not, we are trying to convince ourselves about certain things that deviate us from making the right choices. Look at the mirror. If you need, talk to yourself, not to the extent that you need pills afterwards, but be honest with yourself and make hopefully the right moves, but always know that you can always go and choose differently. So it's not the end of the road if, one of those moves, that you have taken are apparently not the right ones for you. So that's my recommendation.
Yeah, thank you. I think for me personally, it helps setting goals, as you said as well. And I think once you have a clear goal in mind, whether it's a business goal, personal goal, or family-related goal, once you have that goal to strive for, even if you have those junctions like along the way, as long as you can also change the goals, right? I know I haven't, but I know some people did. But once you have a
Indeed, you
goal,
haven't.
yeah,
You haven't. Indeed, you haven't.
I haven't, yeah. But I think once you have goals in mind and you keep pushing through, at some point, eventually, I think you'll get there. And it's also about the journey, not just, just reaching the goal.
But you know that it ain't true, about yourself.
What do
You
you mean?
did transform, you did make so many decisions, although you are, still a founder and leading a GRC. You made so many mistakes, so many decisions, not mistakes, decisions along the road that transformed you, and actually, help the company to be where they are. Think about where you are today. I think 2 years ago, after so many years, being focused on Israel, you decided to take your family and move to the United States. That's a transformational
Yeah,
decision.
yeah,
That by the way, talking about trying to forecast the future, nobody forecasted the pandemic, but this decision eventually, made the company much more successful than it could have ended up if it was only Israeli centric organization. So,
yeah.
you know,
I mean, yeah, I did have the same goal for a lot of years, but you're definitely correct that the transition and the leap came about a year and a half ago. But yeah, I think we're in agreement on that. Um, let's move on to a different type of question. And and I know you're role right now and in the previous role as well, I think you are a part of the IT organization. What do you feel about the role of CISO as part of the IT organization? What are the pros and cons in your opinion?
So today I'm not in the IT organization. So in FICO, the position transformed into direct report into the CTO, who is responsible for product management and product development and operations and IT and DevOps and engineering, etc., etc. And we are there now. So but the question is clear, because if you look today, most of the CISOs, we are for a while talking about the transition from CIO reporting to the CIO. Maybe will be something else, and you see a lot of companies that have made the transition, but still most are part of the IT. I must tell you that we discuss setting goals. You are coming to an organization, you are a C-level VP. It's less important for me where I am positioned, as long as my strategy, is being accepted by the organization that I'm working for. So I don't necessarily need, we spoke about FICO, that I started reporting to the CIO, and now I took one level up and I'm now reporting to the CTO. I don't feel that it is, it made me leap forward, or my program, to become much better, because the goals and the strategy and the program by design from the beginning were, going after the data, ensure risk-based security, security by design, security is a competitive analysis. The target audience were always the relevant stakeholders, from the product, from the ops, from the engineering, in some cases from the general counsel group, from the vendor management group, procurement. So as long as nobody is stopping you, it's not really important where do you report, as long as you understand and everybody understand that this is a cross-dotted reporting, whatever the reporting model will be. It is in a cross-organizational role that everybody needs to collaborate with everyone, and that's the only way you can drive your strategy toward execution. So I don't speak more today. The transition, the transformation in FICO, or me reporting to the CTO. I'm still speaking with the VP R&D at the same amount as I did before. Same goes with the product management. Same goes with everyone else. But that's, I think, more about the CISO. The CISO needs to realize that the role is transformed, and even if the company still didn't figure out, or hasn't figured out the reporting model, he needs to help doing whatever is needed to drive his strategy. And the only way is collaborate, communicate, standardize. We can get into automate, etc., etc. But that's the bottom line for me.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I just think that, you're fortunate enough to work for some mature organizations. I think for maybe less mature organizations, what sometimes might happen from what I've seen is that whenever the CISO reports directly to the IT organization, sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, security initiatives might be sidetracked or get like a second priority or something like that. So you're talking about leadership support, which you have, fortunately, and that's actually what helps you succeed in your role.
But you shouldn't take it for granted. That's what I'm trying to say. I fully agree with you that sometimes there might be a clash, around investments and focus areas, etc. But it's all over the place. It's not necessarily the CIO, because if we take the same approach that I agree with you, a lot of CISOs are expressing as a frustration or concern. If you take it one level up, you will have the same issue prioritizing against, the sprints of the product and the defects that you need to fix bugs. Why not to fix security vulnerabilities? So, as long as your strategy, um, um, as, as long as your strategy, mm, unless your strategy is transformed into something that the organization can digest, understand, and accept, the role reporting model will not fix the issue.
Yeah.
The essence is a clear strategy, no matter where you report to. Clear strategy, realizing that this is a cross, a cross-line role. And again, standardize, set expectation, create a strategy, engage, collaborate. That's what will make you successful, not the fact that you report to this guy or to that guy. I must tell you, when I came to Amdocs, for example, nobody knew who the CISO was. From the business side, they knew in the IT, they knew that there is CISO organization that is doing a lot around the mail server and the internal development organization, much less in other critical places. But again, when you earn trust, you collaborate, you train, you communicate, you actually need to find those places on how to incentivize the other side to work with you. Find what makes him more successful and how you can help him getting there. That will make your strategy much more feasible in terms of success or failure.
Yeah.
I less buy the reporting is a showstopper.
Yeah, I think you were able to nail to hit the nail on the head here. I think you were I think that was a very insightful answer that I mean, I've talked to a lot of CISOs. Some of them dance around that answer, but I think you were able to nail that one. Thank you. Moving on, do you have like any specific individuals, maybe 3 people that have been most influential to you?
So again, I will, out of respect to hundreds of people that I met along the road, I will not name a specific one, although you are indeed one
I'm
of
sure.
those,
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
of those, I think eventually part of you becoming a better person and, a better leader is your ability to take the good stuff from the people that you are working with, you are working for, or working from you, and also the things that you see and feel that you shouldn't do, as part of your journey. I'm a big fan of continuous feedback. Just today I had 3 meetings with 3 people managers within my group that, for 45 minutes, all questions were around what I can do better to serve them, and what they would have liked me to do differently, and where they think I am not doing the right things, and I think that's really critical to your development as again, as a person and as a leader. Continuous feedback. So along the road, I really met so many people, you know, from, unfortunately, I cannot speak about schools because I'm not sure that over there I found, but along the road from the army to the consultancy gig that both of us did before to Promisec, you know, working with, you know, American investors, working with great leaders, you know, that we managed to bring with co-founders that were family and friends. You know, I think that's the only, you know, if you know, I give myself a good grade 22 years after, a lot of the credit, you know, needs to go to a lot of people along the road, people that does not necessarily even think that they manage to influence me as a person or as a leader. But, you know, most probably I learned more from my employees compared to the people that I was reporting to. But, you know, but that's part of the statement. I had great managers and colleagues that I learned from along the road. So I'm grateful to have them as part of my life. And by the way, most of them are still in my life, even if we or both of us are no longer working for the same employer. We are still friends. We are still in touch. We are still supporting each other, and that's I think that's a good sign that you are trying to take the good things and trying to learn what not to do, sometimes even more important.
What's the one common myth about your profession that you want to debunk?
Wow, you know, I just did a presentation in FICO virtual event together with AWS, where I, you know, I called it rethink security. You know, for me, it's the transformation from, you know, a lot of people now are calling it shift left. Usually when you say shift left is development. You know, we actually changed it a bit in FICO, because I believe that if you really want to be successful today in the new world, when code is being injected every day and release is out every other day, you don't have a lot of time if you are doing the SDLC, you know. So, you know, we have a friend that worked for you and then worked for me and still working for me, that now is leading the product security for FICO. And, you know, together we invented security product lifecycle, which we say, you know, let's shift left from the inception phase, because if we understand the business initiative, the business logic, and we understand the moonshot, we can much better support the CI/CD and everything that every CISO can talk hours with you about. But rethink security for me, you know, is explaining as part of this transition or transformation that security issues are just a symptom. You know, for me, that's an amazing statement. You know, because if you go 15 years back, you know, you are 20 years back, you and I, we did risk assessments. Between you and I, if the system admin and the network professionals would have done a solid job without even knowing security, we wouldn't have a job, you and I.
That's
So
correct.
we always said IT hygiene. You know, IT hygiene. Today, it's development, DevOps, product hygiene. If you will have immutable armies, you know, I will take it 20, you know, fast forward 22 years after, hygiene containers or immutable containers, you know, a regular cadence where every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, you are releasing those things, you know, they are flawless. Developers that are only utilizing the latest and greatest versions of Kafka, versus always going with what easy and what was certified 2 years ago. So whenever we identify security today, we explain to everyone that this is a symptom. We can show 5, 10 other things that can be fixed regardless security, if the hygiene would apply. So that's the first thing that that I think is important. The second thing, you know what, I have three things, but I will do it fast. The second and the third one is security can be seamless and security friction can be avoided. By design, security aren't enablers, you know, they bring a lot of slowdowns, you know, a lot of unusual requirements, usually at the end of the day, you know, when in soccer, football, which you don't know, but at the 90th minute, when the game is almost over, then they come back with issues that there is no time to fix. Again, when you do a real set standards that are shifting left to the business, not left to this only to the CI/CD, you will be able to solve most of your issues. You know, standardized, set expectation, automate. You know, being more practical, leverage leverage tools that the relevant stakeholders that actually need to drive execution to your strategy are using. You know, in most cases, even today, Jira, Jenkins, Terraform, CloudFormation, those things are, you know, like what for security experts? Because it's not natural for them to utilize those products. They know the static scan and the dynamic scan and the interactive scan. You know, we need to transform. We need to bring the right people. We need to speak the right language. We need to utilize the same tooling. We need to automate whatever we can. We need to leverage QA automation to security automation. You know, we need really to transform in order to be up to speed and aligned with what the business requires today, rather than product and dev. And that's, I think, part of the myth that needs to be clarified.
Okay, and we can go on about this specific question, I think, for hours, but I know you have another meeting coming, so I'll just switch gears here and move to the next one. So a quick question about myself, you know, and you being in my position as well, in a similar position, actually. If you could step into my shoes as the CEO of a consulting group, what would you have asked yourself that I did not?
So first of all, again, knowing you for 20 years, you have transformed enormously. I think you're doing an amazing job. You have an amazing team. You are running a great operation. That's why we are working together, not only on the podcast. You know, usually if you look at my 22 years journey, you know, when I meet good people and then good providers, you know, I'm sticking with them because I trust them, and you know, there is a great collaboration that basically make me much more successful. So kudos to you and for what you and your partner managed to achieve. In terms of what I would have, but by the way, another compliment, I stole a lot of employees from you. So clearly you know how to bring great talent. I took at least two, maybe three, but two that are really significant power these days in Amdocs and also in FICO. What I would ask you is, you know, when I look at the startups, when I look at, you know, I spoke about transformation, security organization transformation. I see the startups. You know, nobody, you know, it seems like that nobody saw it coming. Everybody are coming so late to the game today from a security product standpoint, or security, you know, I would like to say security technology standpoint, because startups usually develop technologies. And, you know, you are out there in the cloud and you have so many problems that easily could have been predicted, because it's the same thing. The same thing that you and I handled in our bare metal data centers, just in a much more, you know, on steroids. Because today the developer just need to click and you have an environment, right? You don't need now, you don't have gates. But still, we are 2021 shortly. And what we see is that we are always reactive. I'm saying even the security vendors there or the startups that are coming, and most of them are coming with niche solutions, point solutions, where I feel that it should have been different. Not even to talk about the giants or the elephants that are really lagging behind, buying a lot of companies. So now you have a point solution under an elephant, make it even more complicated. I think in your case, the only thing that I would have asked myself is, are you doing the transformation? Because not necessarily you're providing a lot of services around PCI, around cyber assessments, pen testing, simulations, red team, everything. The question is if today you feel that you are ready to tackle the real need of the CISO. Everything is transformed. You were one of the first ones to do PCI in the world. Then you were one of the first one who did PCI certified QSA on AWS.
Yeah.
But you see now, you have Kubernetes and you have Istio and you have Envoy. If you don't invent yourself, you will be lagging behind eventually. So you're the organizations that you are serving eventually, because you are not serving them well. So we need to do the transformation as a, cybersecurity world,
As the
vendors,
ecosystem.
ecosystem, yeah. And that's the only question that I would have asked you, because by the way, it can be also a competitive advantage if you will be ahead of the curve, because most of the people are, are very slow. You have a very healthy, dynamic organization that you can beat them, in providing more and more services faster, but services that are, not outdated.
And I do ask myself this question, and this is one of the reasons that I'm having this podcast to be able to tap into the minds of CISOs as well, because obviously I'm speaking to CISOs, but I can't be speaking to them all day long, and I need to understand the challenges of the CISO. You have to speak to them, and you have to speak to them in a non-threatening manner, because otherwise you'll just come off as salesy, or just wanted to gain a foothold or something like that. But thanks. Yeah, I think that's a great advice. Shifting gears here, a bit about vendor relationship management. What would you say the most annoying sales pitch you've encountered was? If you could narrow it down to one or two, I mean, or maybe a trend, whatever is easiest.
I think there is a trend now, and again, it's I'm getting more than 50 LinkedIn messages a day. You know me for a while. I'm a great supporter of startups. I'm helping, as much as I can. I'm investing a lot of hours a week, consulting startups. I'm investing in some startups. So this is, big part of being I don't know, maybe all the entrepreneur. So I still have it in my veins. I think startups needs to understand, and founders, that even if the product or technology is the greatest in the world, it's not necessarily fall under the prioritization of the CISO. Everybody are so, under pressure to get more and more logos. Everybody, people, they don't really understand that there is another side that, think about the pandemic, think about what we needed to do, in transitioning to remote workforce, cloud first, just to keep up moving the business, that people could read emails, code, deploy. I think startup needs to understand that look at the other side, try to understand the other side, sometimes be a little bit more patient, and I think it will help everyone. You know, I think in life, setting expectation is extremely important. And you know, it's not about a pitch. It's about push a little bit less. Try, you know, people will hear the podcast. You know, I'm appearing in a lot of fireside chats. You know, with a lot of people in a lot of events. I think if you hear what I am saying, you understand a little bit more what I am in need. You know, try to accommodate. You know, don't if I'm not speaking about phishing simulation or training and awareness, not saying it's less important. But if I'm always, you know, advocating about, and I'm pretty consistent, you know, this is more or less where my head is. And if I'm not answering after a day or two, hopefully I will get there. And I have also great team that is reporting to me, that knows exactly the strategy, that knows exactly what we need to do, knows exactly the budget that we are having. Find them. Find them. You know, if I'm getting 50 emails a day, think about the fact that I have 100 people in my organization. They're getting maybe one, if at all.
Yeah.
And this is also a recommendation, you know, because most probably the next follow-up question will be around how to, you know, to make myself accessible and how to approach me. You know, work with my team. You know, I have directors, everything is in LinkedIn. You have all the data in your platforms, marketing platforms that you are utilizing. Approach them. You know, not necessarily the CISO needs to be the first on your list, you know, because think about me having 1,000 things on my mind every day. Hopefully I'm doing the right job to make my 4 directs, you know, having only, you know, 250 things on their mind, and they are much, you know, more, you know, free to handle maybe you reaching out, and they have also directs, right? So I think that's where I am at this point. Always willing to help, though.
So let me try to sum this up, because I do have like a couple of follow-up questions on that, and you know, then I think we can save time here. So in order for vendors, in order to connect with you in a non-intrusive manner, they should listen to what you were talking about, understand your needs, and do some research, maybe then be able to tailor their solution or offering to you, and by doing so, providing you with some value, and maybe, just maybe, trying to reach through the team that's more relevant and not necessarily directly through you, because you might just be the bottleneck here. So vendors really need to do the research, need to understand the pain points, need to understand the environment that you live in, and then need to come up with like a specific offering that shouldn't be too intrusive, just maybe, you know, talking about the pain point that you might have. And if there's like, you know, an answer from the other side, from a team member, then they might start like engaging, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And I know we're running out of time here, so I did have a question about what it is that you are looking for in a vendor, but I think it's self-evident now. I'm not sure if you want to take that or not, or if we have the time for that.
You know, I will give you one thing. You know, what I like to see about vendors is, you know, why I'm not only a logo. You know, it becomes a trend to bring more and more and more logos, but then disappear. You know, the post-sale process becomes a little bit less important than the sale itself. So for me, it's important also to see who the company is, who the CEO is, you know, to try and better understand their strategy, their sales strategy. I don't need to get into numbers. I'm not doing due diligence. I'm not going to invest. I'm going to buy their product. But I do want to see that I'm not only a logo, that they are here, you know, for years to come, rather than to having a logo and be acquired and then sayonara. You know, I don't see them because I take risk. When I go, and this is something that founders needs to realize, when I pick vendor, a startup over an elephant, I take a real risk. You know, being around the block as a CISO for many, many years, we went with a lot of startups that vanished. I'm willing to take the risk, but they need to understand that once we invested in the deployment, it's very, very hard now to go back when you have no evolution of the product, or the product was, you know, I don't know what the elephant did with the product, but is no longer relevant. So if I take the risk, I want to take a calculated risk. Nobody can promise anything, and that's okay. And I understand what also motivates founders, but at least to see that there is a road, a path, you know, an evolution of trying to build a selling company rather than acquire, you know, being on the shelf from day one.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. Just a minute. Okay. So thank you so much for the insight, Hilik. We didn't have time to cover all the questions, but the insights that you did provide were gold, I think, were very insightful. I'm sure a lot of listeners would want to tap into your mind by listening to this. Thank you so much again, and hopefully we can meet in person soon.
Was a pleasure, and will be a pleasure to meet soon. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us for another episode of CISO's Insiders. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more professional content, please check us out on social media.